Rose Yoga. Put on your favorite music and we are going to start to practice. Today is a chair session, which is great if you're spending time riding or driving in a car to take a break, do a little chair yoga. You can do it right in that car seat. Also, it's good if you've maybe just had surgery and the doctor has cleared you for some activity, but you can't really get up and down, or if you just struggle with getting up and down out of off the ground. It's also really good if you work at a desk all day. You can take a break and do a little chair yoga. So let's do some chair yoga together now. We're gonna come into a place where we've got the heels right underneath of the knees. So we've got some good alignment going on here. We want to sit nice and tall with a straight spine. Let's give a roll to those shoulders, loosening everything up, and then just let them droop. Maybe you're coming in feeling like you're carrying a big load on your shoulders today. Just imagine that releasing, someone saying, I will carry that for you. Then let's take that left ear towards the left shoulder, feeling a lengthening down the right side. And then we can come back up to neutral. We're going to drop that right ear towards the right shoulder, lengthening towards the left, and bringing our head back to neutral. Let's start to breathe together. Inhaling, you might even want to place your hands on the belly. We want to feel that belly moving, right? So we inhale, feeling the belly fill, and we're going to feel the bottom of the rib cage start to flare out as we continue to fill that air up, and then fill that air all the way to the top of the rib cage. And then as we release, let's release that air from the top of the rib cage, bottom of the rib cage, belly. Every breath, a big inhale, big exhale. Let's see if we can lengthen these inhales and exhales. Let's see if we can deepen, imagining that we're kind of like a big balloon here that we're trying to stretch just a little bit more. Stretch it till that thing is about to pop. And then release out all of that old air. We're going to continue to breathe like that. And I want to talk today about a king named Hezekiah. King Hezekiah knew how to get things done. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he assembled the Levites for a huge project of reopening the temple for repairs and to purify it. And they finished on the 16th day of that first month. Early the next morning, he gathered the city officials for worship, dedication, and sacrifice. He then invited everyone to celebrate the Passover, creating a lot of excitement not only among his own people, but Ephraim and Manasseh of the northern tribes came down and they participated too. Hezekiah was a king that was organized, motivated, and the kind of leader people followed. Probably a type A that would be tempted to do before praying about something. But in the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign, the king of Assyria starts threatening Jerusalem. First, Hezekiah pays him off, stripping the temple of its wealth to pacify the Assyrian army. But the Assyrians persisted. Then Hezekiah repairs broken walls, building towers on them and cutting off the water supply to the Assyrian army. But the Assyrians persisted. The Assyrians meant business. They had already taken over most of the surrounding nations, including the northern tribes of Israel, and had every intention of taking Hezekiah's nation of Judah too. And here's where the battle shifts. Hezekiah gathers the people together and says this: Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of the king of Assyria and the vast army with him, for there is a greater power with us than with him. With him is only the arm of the flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people gained confidence from what Hezekiah, the king of Judah, said. So the king of Assyria ridiculed their faith then. He says, Don't you know what I did to all the nations around you? None of their gods could save them from me. For no God of any nation or kingdom has been able to deliver his people from my hand. But Hezekiah had gotten it right here. After 2 failed attempts to thwart the Assyrians, 2 Chronicles 32:20 says that Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah cried out in prayer to heaven about this. This is what it says in that passage. And the Lord sent an angel who annihilated all the fighting men and the commanders and the officers in the camp of the Assyrian king. So the Assyrians withdrew to their own land in disgrace. And when the Assyrian king went into the temple of his god, some of his sons, his own flesh and blood, cut him down with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and from the hand of all the others. He took care of them on every side. Many brought offerings to Jerusalem for the Lord and valuable gifts for Hezekiah, king of Judah. From then on, he was highly regarded by the nations. Seemingly brilliant plans are worthless until Hezekiah turns his gaze to heaven in dependence on God. What are your plans for today? Have you laid everything out carefully in your own strength? Or are you planning to live this day in dependence on the strength of God? Don't go it alone. Take a few minutes here to draw near to God, committing your day to Him. Now we're going to come to the front of our chair. We want to feel nice and solid. We're going to come into a chair mountain pose, which is a little bit different than a standing pose because we can really recruit a lot of muscles in the legs. That's hard to do in a standing mountain pose. So we've got our heel underneath of the knee. I want you to place your hands on the quadriceps, and then kind of like a tree is rooted into the ground, press those feet into the mat and notice how you feel those quadriceps start to fire up. And then let's try to hold this tension, strengthening our legs as we work, as we do our spinal warm-up. Maybe even in our mind, we've got that picture of when you look outside and you see a storm and these huge trees are blowing around, but they're not going anywhere because those roots are planted so deep. So go ahead and just keep pressing those heels in, and every once in a while you might want to check in if your quads are still firing. If they're not, press in a little bit deeper. But let's take those arms and let's reach forward, drawing that spine behind us, letting the head drop, drawing the pelvis into some movement here. And then we'll reverse this. Coming into cow, drawing that chest forward, taking our gaze a little higher. Alternating cat and cow. Thinking about the spine as we move here, trying to create some space between the vertebrae. Inhaling and exhaling. We're going to exhale as we do cat, and then we inhale here as that chest and that belly are exposed. Think about everything open, ready to take in lots of air. And then here, as we're in cat, we think about pushing all that air out. We're still pressing those feet into the mat, finding some strength in the legs, finding some mobility of the spine. And the next time we come into cat, let's lift those heels. Noticing a little bit of strengthening in the calf. Because we have a bent leg, we're actually going to be working the soleus, which is a little bit longer than that ball of the foot, ball of the calf that we think of. It's right behind it, runs a little longer, it's supportive there. If we had a straight leg, we'd be working that gastrocnemius. Now let's open up again. Let's give the wrists a twist here, switching directions. And let's reach up with the right hand, inhaling up and releasing back down on an exhale. Inhale, finding space down the side of the spine. We're reaching directly over the shoulder, lengthening, reaching, stretching those fingertips as far away from the chair as we can. Still working in our spinal warm-up. Here we were getting some space created to the vertebrae at the front and the back when we were doing our flexion and extension in cat-cow. Now we're working from the side. And now the next time that we come up, let's get a good grip on that chair. Lengthening up and then drawing to the side, taking our gaze over towards that side of the room that we're reaching from. Really lengthening, noticing how every inhale creates a little more space in the spine and the vertebrae. Breathing and reaching. Let's take some time to think about how great it is that God is just so big, that when we look up at the stars and are amazed by something so majestic and beautiful, that He made them. And we don't even really completely know their role, right? Let's switch to the other side, reaching up, lengthening. Or maybe the fact that He knows more than we do. Maybe you're in some situation where you're in this relationship with someone and you're thinking, why would they do that? But we serve a God who knows what's going on in their heart, in their life, the things that we don't know. And we can trust Him enough to do the right thing and trust that He is just and faithful and that He loves us, that He loves them. And sometimes we just have to live our day in that kind of trust, don't we? Let's draw that back down. We're gonna bring our arms out to the sides, making sure we've got that good posture. We're still digging those feet into the ground. And we're gonna rotate behind us and rotate. We're gonna inhale neutral, exhale rotation. Taking our gaze behind. And now the next time that we rotate back, let's get a grip on that chair. Let's make sure the knees do stay over the heels. We're gonna breathe in this rotation, and let's take some time for a prayer of adoration, which is just thinking about those qualities of God that mean so much to us, that He knows all, that He's all powerful. Sometimes we can feel so powerless in our circumstances, and that's okay, because when we serve a God who's all powerful, He's got you. So let's take some time for a prayer of adoration, being thankful for whatever quality speaks to you today, His goodness, His justice, His love for you. Now gently releasing, belly button draws to the front, followed by the chest, and then our gaze. Let's inhale up, coming down into a forward fold. We're still pressing those feet into the mat. You might want to take a second here and just place those hands on the quadriceps to make sure that we've still got that pressure, that strengthening of our legs. The next time that we come up, our hands will meet, coming to heart center, opening up and drawing into rotation on the other side, taking your grip on that chair. We're initiating this action from the belly button, and then our chest follows, followed by our gaze. Let's come into a time of a prayer of thanksgiving, thankful for our blessings. Maybe it's our family, a good friend. Maybe it's the chance you got to take a walk this morning, or just whoever delivered your package that you've been waiting for. Take some time of gratitude here. And releasing from the belly button, followed by the chest, our gaze comes forward. We want to feel like we're in a place in the chair that's pretty far forward, but at the same time, we want to feel pretty solid here. And now we're going to take our torso and start to tip back. Important that those feet aren't in at all, that we do have them out underneath of the knees so that we can challenge our core here. We want to find that place where the abdominals start to engage. Now, I'm resting my hands here just for balance. Maybe you can even draw your arms here, but we're not gripping the chair because we want the core to have to work. Now, if you're not feeling the core activated here, you can try lifting one leg or even two legs. Feeling that strengthening of the core. If we're feeling the lower back kick into a place of pain, then we ease off a little bit. If we're not feeling anything in the core strengthening, then we deepen a little bit. Finding a focal point with our gaze, breathing and strengthening. Inhaling and exhaling. And let's come back up to a seated position. We're going to extend that left leg out, taking our hands behind the head. Let's work those obliques a little bit. Inhaling as we release. Exhaling as we draw that opposite elbow towards that opposite knee. We're going to find that we're also strengthening the hip flexor here. Slower is better. It's actually a lot easier to really pump this. So we want a nice slow motion where everything is having to work a little bit harder. See, how slow can you go? Kind of like, hello, can you go? How slow can you go? I guess I'm feeling a little cheesy today. And then we can draw that back down. Let's do the other side, extending that leg out, hands up, and drawing that opposite knee towards the opposite elbow. Now notice that my foot is flexed. Anytime we can draw that foot into flexion, it's just going to help us protect the tissues under the knee. Nice and slow. See if you can maybe even go slower than I am, but continue to breathe, breathing deeply, extending the breath, lengthening. If we're able, we want to breathe through our nose. And then we'll bring those feet back underneath of the knees. Let's try this with our hands up here. Notice if this maybe feels a little harder to come back into our boat pose. Harder for me, I feel myself shaking a little bit here. And maybe this is something that hurts your shoulders. We could come here, or we can come right back to where we were the first time that we did our chair boat. Find where we are in the pose today, holding and breathing. And we can come back up. Let's extend that leg directly in front. So we were working the obliques here when we had an angle from the opposite elbow. Let's this time draw forward. So we want to keep the knee in line with the ankle and the hip. And we're just going to come forward. We're not coming to an elbow so much. It's just drawing it in a place of alignment. Activating this movement from the core. Let's release that, bringing that heel right back underneath of the knee, extending that leg. So here we're working the rectus abdominis. Breathing deeply, keeping everything in alignment. And third time is your choice. Maybe you want the hands up here, maybe here. I'm going to put my hands at the chair, but again, not gripping. Make sure those heels aren't in, but we've got them underneath of the knees. And let's kick it back, finding that place where the abdominals engage once more. Breathing. Holding the movement, never holding the breath. And we can come back up to that seated position. All right, let's come behind our chair. We're going to take one foot forward, the other we're going to draw back. Let's come into warrior one. So we've got a bend in that front leg. We've got a little bit of an angle for this back leg. Our back leg is open with the hip towards the side. And then we're going to take our torso and turn it towards the chair. If you're pregnant, do not do this. It's not good for the baby to have our torso this way and our hip that way. If you're pregnant, come into a shorter stance here, and then just don't do any over twisting with that ribcage forward. But if we're not pregnant, let's get a nice wide stance, hip open to the side, front. If we're able, we can draw our arms overhead in the strong warrior one, maybe placing one hand on the chair. If this bothers the shoulders to be lifted, we can come into cactus arms. Chair warrior one, really pressing both feet into the mat equally here. Breathing. So right now we've got that torso facing the chair. Let's shift into warrior two, dropping down the hand that's closest and opening up towards the side of the mat. So our torso now is going to be at that long edge of the mat. Got our knee pointed towards that chair. We don't want to go any further than a 90-degree angle. We've got the toe pointed towards, or the knee pointing towards that second toe. And then we're going to take our gaze in the direction of the chair. If we were in a standard warrior two, this arm would be lifted and our gaze would be over that middle finger. So you may want to do that just to kind of set up your gaze. And then we can rest that hand back on the chair just to make sure we're feeling nice and solid here. Breathing. And then we can lean into that chair, drawing our arm overhead into a chair side angle, creating a nice long line from the fingertips down to the feet. If this bothers our shoulder, We can drop the arm. The important thing is that our torso is not turned towards the chair. We should still be open towards that long edge of the mat. And I do recommend putting a mat underneath of your chair. You might not be able to see because I have a black floor and I'm using a black mat today. I do have my chair on a mat. It's just gonna help keep your chair from sliding around. If your arm is overhead, we're gonna drop it. We wanna make sure that that torso is turned towards that long edge of the mat. And then we're gonna slide down that leg. So we're getting that lateral flexion down the side of the spine again. An exalted warrior, reverse warrior. If you're comfortable not using the chair for some of these standing poses, you're welcome to draw the arm overhead. Your choice. But we want to feel like we're moving to the side, getting a good side bend here. The legs are still in that warrior stance, nice and strong. And let's slide back up, taking both hands to the top of the chair, stepping back, placing the feet underneath of the hips, and then we come out of alignment as we push those hips back, letting the head drop down, lengthening the spine in a chair down dog. Breathing. As we're here, we can take time for a prayer of confession, searching our hearts. Sometimes we don't even realize that, maybe I hurt that person's feelings until we just stop and get in a time where we think about our day and our actions, and is there something that we need to make right? If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9. And we'll come back to a standing position. Let's take that right foot forward, putting a bend into that knee. Got a little angle here to that foot of the back leg. So we've got the hip open to the side, right? And then we're gonna take our torso, turning it towards the front. And then we can lift an arm up overhead as we're in warrior one. We've got both feet equally pressing into the mat. If the bend in this front knee feels painful to your knee, back off a little bit. We're never going over 90 degrees because we want to take care of our knee. We also want to make sure that that knee is pointed towards the second toe. Now, chair yoga can be done barefoot or with shoes or in your socks, your choice. I usually do it without the shoes because I like to really feel the grounding, and I feel like all those muscles of the feet do need worked. I got my shoes on today because I just finished teaching kickboxing. So ran over, started taping. Let's come into warrior two. So we're gonna open up the rib cage towards the side of the mat, extending our arm out, which is gonna stabilize all three parts of the deltoid, the shoulder. And then we've still got that good bend in the knee. Our torso is towards that long edge of the mat. We can rest this arm here, or we can extend it out. Our gaze is towards that middle finger, or where that middle finger would be. Breathing. Arm lifted. Bend in that right leg. Very purposeful with our breath. Really try to draw that breath down, filling the belly every time. Let's come into side angle. We're gonna extend the arm overhead, gaze either straight ahead or at the floor. We've still got that strong stance here. If this bothers the shoulder, we're just gonna drop that arm down. Important thing is that our torso is not facing the chair, that we're open to the side here. Your side angle, breathing, making that long line. We can still, if this arm is down, feel like we're creating this nice, long, beautiful line, can't we? And then we're gonna drop that arm down, keeping those strong warrior legs, making sure that torso is still to the side of the mat. We slide, coming into exalted warrior, feeling a lengthening down the side of the spine, choosing either to keep our hand here on the chair, which is where most of us are gonna be in this practice, right? Or drawing it overhead if that feels comfortable for our practice today. And reverse warrior, exalted warrior, got a couple of names for it. Breathing. And we can release that Bringing both hands back to the chair, stepping back for our down dog, pushing the hips behind us, lengthening, coming into a time of a prayer of supplication, which is just those requests that are on our hearts. Maybe somebody's not feeling well today, you want to pray for them. You know, someone with a heavy heart and some tough stuff going on, and maybe it's you and you need to pray for your own tough stuff or the tough stuff of someone else. Pray for those things now. We've got soft knees. And we can come back out of our down dog. We're going to come to the short edge of the chair. Let's come back into down dog, but this time at the short edge. So we're going to grip the sides, stepping back, pushing back. Notice that we can come a little bit deeper here. And then we're going to get a good grip of the sides of the chair, coming forward into a plank. If this feels difficult to come into this plank, you can draw another leg forward for support and just kind of let it rest here. If you'd like to advance this plank, make sure you feel nice and solid. You can come closer to the edge of the chair just to give you some space. Make sure you still feel very solid. And then we can alternate some knee drives. So you've got a one-legged plank with a knee drive. Do a certain number of reps on one side, then the other. I really like just holding the standard plank or strengthening the transverse abdominis, which is the part of the abs that we use when we sneeze or cough. We were also working that earlier today when we did our chair boat. Now let's take that left foot forward, right leg behind, all 10 toes facing the front of the chair. If we feel a good stretch here, we'll stay here, or you can drop down to the forearms. Just let that head relax. Your head weighs about 11 pounds. It's the weight of a bowling ball. So let the nervous system relax a little bit by releasing the head fully. We've got soft knees, or maybe even a good bend in the knee if it's going to help us to take care of our low back today. We're pressing the hips backward. Feeling a release in the hamstrings. It's kind of like standing on railroad tracks. And let's come back and grip the chair, drawing the right foot forward, stepping the left foot back, coming into pyramid on the other side, pushing the hips back, straight legs with soft knees or with a bend in the knee. If that's what we need to do to protect our back, we can be here or we can release down, your choice. Feeling that release in the hamstrings, listening to how this feels in our body. Are we feeling pain? Then we should probably back off a little bit. Is it possible that we're not feeling anything? If that's the case, we can come deeper into the pose, pressing those hips backward a little bit more, dropping a little lower. And let's come back up. Let's have a seat on our chair. You might want to grab a block here. Depends on where we are within this pose. We're going to come into pigeon. There's a possibility that you might want to put the block here and then just rest this leg to the side and come forward. Or if you'd like to advance beyond that, you might want to make sure you've got your knee in line with your heel. Take that leg up, being sure our foot is flexed to protect the tissues of the knee. We want to be sure that if we are up in this position that we're not feeling any pain in the knee. We want to feel a good loosening up of the ball and socket of the hip, but we don't want to feel any knee pain. And maybe you think, I'm even more flexible than that. I need something deeper. Here's what your deeper would be. You would take that foot into the crook of the elbow and you'd come up to a seated position. Most of us will probably be either here or here with a block, but find our pigeon today. Let those shoulders hang heavy. Let's return to thinking about our breathing, placing a hand on the belly, feeling that belly move with every breath. Then we can release that leg and hug it close. Let's do just a couple circles within the ball and socket of the hip. Releasing back down. Other side, either choosing here, here, or here, whatever feels good. In our practice today, that is not going to cause any knee pain. We're flexing the foot. We're feeling this in the hip. Releasing any tension in the jaw. Breathing. And we can release that. Let's hug that knee towards the chest. Circle the ball and socket of the hip. We're going to come into our final relaxation. We've got some choices here. We can grab a second chair. With a pillow. I didn't bring a pillow. So, pretend the pillow is here. And you can just kind of grip towards the pillow and relax. Or you can just sit back, just let everything go loose. If you're able to get up and down from the floor, then I recommend that you go ahead and pop onto the floor. And we'll put our legs up top. You'll be able to feel the grounding not only of the floor, but on the back of the legs of the chair. Let's come into a relaxed position here, taking our last purposeful breath of today, inhaling and exhaling, and just letting our breath become easy and natural with nothing forced. Relaxing the shoulders, the jaw, the cheekbones, the space under the eyes, every follicle of hair just resting, allowing the right arm to feel heavy and the left. Noticing the strength of the rib cage, allowing that heart to feel soft. Hips resting, noticing how firm that chair and the floor are. Allowing the right leg to feel heavy and the left leg. Finding a softness around the ankles. Any last bit of tension, just easing out the feet. Not long after the time that Hezekiah faced the Assyrians, Isaiah the prophet comes to him and tells him that he's about to get a terminal illness. Hezekiah weeps and prays a very bold prayer. He prays that God would extend his life, and God answered that prayer. God promised to extend his life 15 years, offering proof of this promise by a miracle that involved a sundial moving backwards for assurance of an earnest praying Hezekiah. It was a pretty bold prayer, the kind of prayer that Jesus teaches is just fine when he tells the parable of a friend at midnight. In this parable, someone comes to visit in the dark hours of the night, middle of the night. And this was common in that culture for people to travel at night because it was cooler. It was very warm during the day for traveling. But when he gets to his friend's house, the friend doesn't have any bread. So in the middle of the night, the friend goes over to his neighbor's house and he starts knocking, and the neighbor is like, go away, we're asleep. But the friend is persistent. He wants to get some bread for his other friend that just came to visit him. And eventually, even though it seems just so audacious that this neighbor would keep knocking on the door in the middle of the night, his neighbor does get up and get him some bread. He listened to the request in the same way that God listens to our requests, even when they might seem a little audacious. The words used are shameless audacity and persistence. It's kind of I can't even believe you asked me that kind of request. And God says we can come to him with those. In 2013, I spent a year in cancer treatment, and it was expensive, at least from what I could tell. My husband, wanting me to focus on healing and not to be given any additional stress, was keeping the finances to himself at this time. But I could tell it wasn't good. So I prayed. I didn't know what else to do. I said, God, I don't know how much we need, but I can tell the need is there. I laid out a specific dollar amount, which I believe was $3,000. To be honest, I don't remember the total. What I do remember is the envelope from an anonymous person that was delivered to our home for the exact amount that I had prayed for within 24 hours. I told my husband what happened, and his face looked like this mix between a wash of gratitude and this layer of concern that remained. And I couldn't shake the feeling that we maybe needed a little more than I had prayed for. But could I really ask God for money again when he had already supplied so miraculously, so precisely, and with such a large amount? Yep. According to this parable from Jesus, we can ask audaciously, beyond what seems conventional, beyond what seems reasonable. So that's what I did. I just talked to God. I said I was concerned that I didn't ask you for quite enough, Lord, and gave another specific amount, which I believe to have been $1,500. Thanks, God. Sorry I'm asking you again already, but I sure would appreciate it. Same day, in our mailbox, the exact amount. Don't tell me there isn't a God, and don't tell me that he doesn't answer prayer. God is bold enough to answer those who ask. We don't need to bargain with God. We can be direct, boldly asking for exactly what we need. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. And now we can start to return our attention to the room, wiggling the fingers and toes, fidgeting a little bit. Coming to either a standing position or drawing those knees towards the chest.